crane up. Ben is on residence life staff here, and he's going to read a story of a student, name's changed, of a student here at Concordia, who was here at Concordia, and maybe this will be your one, because this story represents other stories as well. So let's give a hand to Ben as he reads.
2 years ago, my world was turned upside down. I was an average student, living the dorm life, a student leader, and trying to go about my day-to-day life as a normal college kid. A man whom I called a friend sexually assaulted me in my own dorm room. I was fast asleep, I heard the door open, and I assumed it was my roommate. I didn't think anything about it. Before I could register what was going on, a man was in my bed molesting me. Everyone thinks that these bad things happen to those that ask for it. Stereotypes go out the window when a perpetrator makes up their mind to sexually assault someone. I'm an average college student. I don't party, I don't dress inappropriately, and I don't sleep around. This guy decided that he was going to take advantage of my vulnerability, and he ruined me emotionally. After the assault, I told him to leave, and all he could do was blame me in order to save himself. He told me things like, "You came across as easy. You have done things like this with guys before, so why can't I do it with you? If you tell anyone, I will ruin your reputation on this campus." And I believed every word he said. I spent months in depression, thinking I caused this, that it's my fault, that I am a slut because he said so. After a couple months, I decided to begin counseling, and I began the healing process. A journal article I wrote a month after it happened read, "I'm overwhelmed, I'm lost, and ashamed. I have never gone through this before, so I don't know what's normal. I just feel weak. I was making so much progress in my confidence, and now I feel like crap about myself. And especially because I am allowing someone else to control me, and I'm sick of this feeling. I'm sick of crying. I'm sick of feeling sick to my stomach. I'm sick about talking about it, but that's all that I think about. How do I make this feeling go away? How do I take control of my life once again? Why am I allowing someone I have so much hurt and anger from be the focus of my life all the time? I'm overwhelmed, I'm lost, and ashamed. It's been 2 years since the assault, and I'm still suffering from the emotional scars that this man caused me. One night can change someone's life. It's never the victim's fault for being assaulted. If there is no consent, it's a crime. I turned to the sexual assault advocacy program at Concordia. My friends have been a support, but there's something about professional advocates who can help you get through. They helped me academically by talking to my professors, and they helped me feel a safe space by helping me place a restraining order on the perpetrator. And they allowed me to take control of my situation until I felt safe. And now, I am no longer a victim of sexual assault, I am a survivor.
So, Ben read somebody else's story. Real story. And I just am curious, as you read that, what did that bring up in you to read somebody else's story that experienced this?
I think I was honestly hurt that something like this could happen at the campus I lived on. And I think that's a terrifying reality at times.
And if there's one thing you could ask all of us, or encourage all of us to do in response to the story we read, the story that, in a sense, you got inside for just a moment, what would you encourage us to do?
I'd encourage you to acknowledge that saying no means that consent cannot be given. And if a person says no, it doesn't matter what the setting is, what the environment is. If a person says no, then consent is not being given.
Thank you, Ben. Give him a hand. So, what's your why? What's my why? Stories like that. Knowing that people struggle because somebody decided that they would push through the no, because somebody didn't seek consent. There's some more whys for me. See my son over there? He's 13 and my daughter's 10. I want the world that they enter into in college to be different than the stats that we talked about earlier tonight. I want my son to know what consent is. I want my daughter to know what consent is, to be skilled in how they talk about sex and how they respect not only their body but others as well. I want them to know the stuff we're learning tonight so that they're safe and their friends are safe and they make their community just a little bit better. Not only that, another reason. You might recognize that picture. We were all standing out below the library on the right there that took a picture on Saturday. I want this community to change, to not be represented by those stats out there, but rather to be different. So, a few more things we need to do tonight. We talked a lot about consent. What is consent? How do you give it? How do you make sure it's been given? What do you do if it's not given? I have a little 5-minute video for you to see. There's some moments in there where she's trying to be light. There's some moments there when she's serious. Enjoy that, take it in, and take some notes. What are the keys to consent? How do we know consent's been given? How do we ask for it? How do we know if it's not there? See?
Oh, hi babes. You know what is so deliciously hot to me? I'm with a person I like and there's a little bit of sexual tension and then they lean over and they're like, can I kiss you? I don't make that sound, usually. Why is it so sexy? Because they asked for consent if it was okay, which shows one, that they respect me, and two, that they've got some basic sexual communication down. Hot. But consent isn't just hot, it's also mandatory. Sexual contact without consent is assault or rape. Here's the thing, people often think of sexual coercion as something that's, violent or physically restraining. In reality, sexual coercion is often much more subtle. It happens between two people who know and maybe even trust each other. The perpetrator will use pressure, manipulation, drugs, alcohol, and force to initiate sexual contact without permission. And worse, in the real world, sexual coercion is often seen as acceptable. Like pushing someone over and over and over after they've said no, or throwing yourself on someone without warning because it's romantic. Oh, that shit's not romantic. It's just creepy and salty and rapey. So can people just, can you not do that? Are you enjoying yourself? How does that feel? Do you like that? Do you want me to keep going? How far do you want to go? You look uncomfortable, are you okay? Good consent is basically just checking in. It's paying attention to someone's body language, how they're doing. It's keeping those lines of communication open so that everyone's on the same page and everyone feels safe and comfortable, which means this is not how you ask for consent. Nope. Come on, I thought you liked me. I promise you'll like it. Just do it for me. What's the big deal? We've had sex before. I'm so horny right now. You liked it last weekend. Douchebag alert! Also, potential rapist alert. Rapists often see sex as something that's owed to them. Sex is never something that's owed to someone. Doesn't matter if you've been flirting, if you hooked up before, if they bought you dinner, not even if you're naked. Pushing someone until they finally give in is not consent because you're basically not giving the option to say no. So how can you know if someone is consenting once you ask? Yes, please. Oh man, that feels so good. Keep going. I'm down for anything in these areas, but not these areas. Yeah, right there. Why, yes, I would like that. Notice how consent is a clear yes, it's enthusiastic. I want it. It's out loud, and there's no doubt in your mind. And remember, consent can always be retracted. So if you feel like the vibes have kind of changed, or you're unsure, getting mixed signals, you want to check in. This is what no might sound like. I don't like that. Can you stop? I'm not ready for this. Can we slow down for a second? I'm not into this anymore. I guess, if you want me to. Please don't. Just because someone doesn't say no doesn't mean they're saying yes. They might feel uncomfortable or guilty or not know how to say it. So that is why it's really important to hear that verbal out loud yes. And if they're being quiet, ask them, hey, how you doing? What's up? How's it going? Everything okay? And that, my dears, basically, in a nutshell, is how you practice good consent. So now I want to talk about some situations where consent cannot happen, even with a verbal yes. Sometimes people get drunk. You may have learned this about the world. When it comes to sex, a little bit of alcohol isn't a big deal. But if they're too drunk to drive, they're too drunk to give consent, period. Getting sexual with someone who's wasted, slurring their words, their body's limp, they can't communicate clearly, maybe they're throwing up, that's absolutely sexual assault. Let's all do the right thing and take care of them, not take advantage of them. Sometimes when I'm at schools, people ask me, well, what if they're both really, really drunk? It's pretty simple. Sex is an active thing. It requires the intentional action of at least one party to get it done. Remember, sex isn't something that happens to someone. It's something that happens together. Both people participating. Like this. Kind of. Having sex with someone who's intoxicated or in this compromised state is against the law. You can be expelled and you can go to jail for it. The age of legal consent, it varies by state, it varies by country, but for an adult to have sex with a minor is statutory rape. And in general, when people are in two very different parts of their life, it raises some red flags. This ties in with situation number 3. You hold authority over them. You can't get consent from someone who you have power over. So I'm talking about things like teachers and doctors, therapists, coaches, priests, caregivers, famous actors, maybe even famous YouTubers with their fans. When one party depends on the other, when they trust them, rely on them, when they idolize them, it severely impairs their ability to consent. Why? Power dynamics like these come with strong underlying vulnerabilities, which can give the appearance of consensual sex when it's actually exploitative, someone abusing their power. We need to make open lines of communication and consent just a standard, normal part of sex. Not a situation where most teenagers can't even describe what consent is. We do have the power to change it as individuals, and by spreading this information to other people, we can help to create something called consent culture. That's a culture where all the sex that is had is sex that is wanted, and that's how it should be. But that's not how it is. Give me all the consent. I'm ready. I love you all so much, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
All right, consent. She makes it pretty clear. Quite a few ideas about what consent is. Some key words. Voluntary. If somebody's incapacitated, if somebody says no, if somebody doesn't agree, is that voluntary? No. Knowing and clear permission. It can be revoked at any time. Without consent, it's sexual assault. Without consent, it's sexual assault. We have to develop skills on this campus where we know about consent, where we talk about consent, and where we don't move beyond consent. And if we do that, we're taking a step in the right direction. But not only that, we have to understand that from time to time, we might be a bystander. A bystander is somebody who sees something. They see a situation or they notice a behavior, and suddenly, in that situation that could be bad, they have a choice. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've heard the jokes being said. I've seen the person who's incapacitated on the couch in a risky situation. I've heard of somebody taking advantage of others. I'm a bystander now. The choice is no longer to know or not to know. You know. It's part of your reality. The choice is to be active as a bystander or passive as a bystander. To make a move that will help somebody, or to withdraw and not move at all. Now, it's tough to think about how to do that. Imagine yourself in a situation. You're at a party, there's people around, everybody's having a good time, and you see somebody leading somebody who's had too much up to a bedroom. What do? You're a bystander. Are you going to be passive, or are you going to be active? It's hard to be active. I want to honor that. It's hard to step out and get out of our comfort zone and to intercede. Why is that? This is more than I'm getting into tonight. but I'm going to introduce you to some of the reasons why. Diffusion of responsibility. Think about it. There's 20 people at that party. I can't be the only one who saw it. And so the more people are there, the less I see myself as responsible. We need to understand that's a real mind game that we play with ourselves and move in a different direction and say, you know what, if I see something, it's part of my reality, I have to deal with it, I'm going to move. I'm going to be an active bystander, not a passive bystander. Another one is evaluation apprehension. Big long words that just mean, maybe I saw that wrong. Maybe this situation that I was worried about is all good. And so that's a little trap door that we can escape our responsibility from. Where we can say, you know what, I'm not going to be an active bystander. I'm not going to do anything about this. Instead, what I'm going to do is just sit back. You know what? If a situation is ambiguous, you don't know whether it's okay or not, check it out. Think more deeply about it. Discover more information about it. Another one, cause of misfortune. We're less prone to act if we buy into victim blaming that we talked about earlier. If we think that somehow the victim is responsible for what has occurred. There's a lot more in here on bystanders and how we can move beyond being a passive bystander to be an active one. And I can't get into it all tonight, but what I want to have you do is watch one more video here and think about maybe how easy that is not complex it can be to intercede on the behalf of people in conflict or in trouble or in danger, even though it's hard to do so. So this is a video that we're going to start in a moment that was shot by a bystander on a subway train. A little warning, there's some language in it, but we're all mature, we can handle that. And what I want you to do is look for the heroes here. And the easy things they do. The unexpected things they do to not be a passive bystander. Try to figure out what makes the difference and who makes the difference. Go ahead.
We got you on camera. Don't follow. We got you.
When we stop again, get off. Okay, do not follow me. Please get off.
All right, so who was the first bystander to step in? The chip guy, right? You know, when you watch him later on in the video, and I don't know if you caught this, but he has one chip left and then he eats it and is like, oh, I have no more chips left. What am I going to do now, right? But by that time, something had happened. What had happened when he stepped in with his chips and just started eating? He created a distraction. He separated them without saying a word. It doesn't have to be complex. What else happened when he stepped in? It gave opportunity for help to come. Others to come. It doesn't have to be complex. It will be hard. It's more natural for us to pull back and be passive. But we don't need to make a big scene. We just have to create some space so that people can get safe and others can come in. One of the benefits about tonight is that you will know when you're around the campus or when you're in dorms or wherever you're at, you'll know that other people here heard this same stuff. And so if you step in and you start eating your chips, because that's all you can think to do, somebody else is here and they're going to say, ah, there's Chip Guy. I better step in and maybe I can help out. And there's power in numbers as we move forward with that. It doesn't have to be complex. You can make a difference just by getting involved. So, it's hard to act, it's easy to act, that is, it's not complex, you don't have to make a big deal out of it. See a situation, use your creativity. He just used what he had in front of him, and it started to change the situation. And then also choose to learn. One of the action steps that you can take tonight is to put on your calendar the bystander training, so that you can learn some techniques that will help you intercede on behalf of somebody else gracefully, safely, effectively. That's October 15th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And it will probably not be this hot, so that's another advantage for you. What's the point? We talked about the stats. We saw them over here. Talked about the culture at large and what happens to those who have suffered sexual assault. We talked about our own perspectives. We learned new things about consent. Thought about being a passive versus active bystander, just a touch. What's the point? We want to empower you tonight to start thinking new thoughts and to start deciding to take a new step in a right direction. In a direction that creates a safer, better community for us all. The step tonight, the goal tonight is to help you be atypical. You as an individual, so that you act instead of not. So that you learn better communication skills around sex instead of not, which is atypical. So that this campus is atypical, so that the stats we saw don't represent our campus. That's the point tonight. In just a moment, Jana is going to come up and close us out along with all the student leaders that are here. And as they come up, there's one more video. One is too many. You may have seen this, that I'll leave you with. I really do appreciate your time and staying with us, staying with me during this heat and this long, long talk on an important topic. So, as the video plays, the student leaders will come up, and thank you.
We have a big problem, and we need your help. It's happening on college campuses, at bars, at parties, even in high schools.
It's happening to our sisters and our daughters,
our wives and our friends.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop.
We have to stop it. So listen up.
If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent, it's rape, it's assault.
It's a crime. It's wrong.
If I saw it happening, I was taught you have to do something about it.
If I saw it happening, I speak up.
If I saw it happening, I'd never blame her. I'd help her.
Because I don't want to be a part of the problem.
I want to be a part of the solution.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
Hello, I just want to thank you guys so much for coming here and being present with this topic tonight. And the conversation that we just had was very heavy, and I understand that can be really, really overwhelming to take all of that in. So I just want to encourage everyone to take time to process that, and process it in a way that it has lasting relevance to each of your lives. And I know for me, sometimes I can get really discouraged when I think about rape culture or victim blaming culture or just sexual orientation discrimination. But the thing that gives me hope is knowing that that does not have to be the culture at Concordia. And as a group of students and as faculty, we're a part of a group of people that respects, believes, and empowers every person. Behind me are some of our student leaders that represent different leadership groups on campus. And we just want to take this time to tell you guys that we believe that being a Cavalier means that we look out for each other. We respect each other and we care for each other. Being a Cavalier means that we believe that every person has the right to freely choose when, where, with whom, and like to what extent they choose to express his or her sexuality, as Reed was saying. And as earlier, as Steve was saying what the Concordia mission statement is. Does anyone know what the mission statement is? Anyone out here? Concordia's mission? Student leaders, Concordia's mission? So we're transforming society, folks. We're transforming society. And so whenever I think about that mission in terms of this topic, there's potential. There's real potential, guys. So if, like, everyone in this room has potential to transform society by choosing to be an advocate, by choosing to intervene in issues of sexual violence. And so as you guys have in your packets, there's a pledge card, and all of us have already made the pledge, and we want you guys to join us in completing that pledge. So thank you.